Morning, and welcome to this week's rant. As you can see, I am sitting on the table in that sort of favourite spot of mine, which is in front of the window. And what I normally do here is I normally reveal things. So the toys have continued into the new year with this. It's an RD-8. Yes, I sort of this was my Christmas present to myself. So before Christmas, I sort of decided that I thought I was going to buy something else, I have to be honest, and I didn't, and I ended up buying this, which is the brand new Behringer RD-8. So this, for those that don't know what the Behringer RD-8 is, this is the Behringer clone of the classic Roland TR 808 drum machine. Had to think about that then. Shouldn't have to think about it because I got. So yes, I do have a TR 8 in the stable, and I do have a TR 09 and a TR 08 as drum machines. I also have a Roland Human RM8, R8M, sorry, Human Rhythm Composer. But something kept driving me towards this piece of equipment. So I thought, in the end, for what it cost, I thought it was worth a go and see if I could integrate it into my workflows. So I haven't unboxed this yet. This literally, I mean, I have to be honest and say that this has been sitting over there for about 10 days, and I've resisted unboxing it up until this point in time. I have been away on work, so that did help that I wasn't actually here. But I mean, I know some musicians, they sort of get hold of these things and they just rip them open as soon as they could, but I had to resist in that it is sort of kind of arrived just before I went away on a business trip after New Year, and I haven't really been back to do this since. So let's see if we can get into this thing. Why is this wire catching? Something wrong here. Oh, that's better. Sort my microphone out. That's better. So we get into the box itself, and we have the machine, and we have a Behringer sign and the manual. Put that down there for a sec. So there you go, there's the manual, and it's cellophane, which it won't be for very much longer, I might add. In English, what does it say in English? Okay, whatever. I'll do that in a minute. Alright, let's get it out, because that's not what you want to see. What you actually want to see is, what does the RD-8 look like? Getting into the shrink wrap of the thing. Might need a trusty accomplice. A Stanley knife. By the way, guys, if you're going to do this at home, make sure you don't actually use the Stanley knife and go through the unit itself. That would not be a cool thing to do. As you can see, what I tend to do is I tend to pull the plastic away from the unit, and then I can use the Stanley knife to cut it. There you go. Get rid of that. And then we get into here. Now, the first thing I will say about this RD-8 is it's actually quite heavy. You know, and the original 808 machine was actually quite heavy, I remember that. But this is fairly substantial in terms of weight. I mean, it's, you know, it's, when you put it on a surface, you know, it's substantial. So this is the Behringer RD-8 rhythm designer. Now I have played with this in the shop before I bought it. I didn't buy it in the shop on the day I played with it, but I bought it, I played with it and then decided to go and buy it. It's got, so let's go from the back because it's probably easier. So what we have is we have clock inputs at the end, and then we have trigger outputs, so you can use the trigger 3 separate sources, or you can daisy chain the trigger, so you can do that. You then have all the instruments separately itemized along the back here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 separate outputs there. Standard 3 channel MIDI there, USB input there, and then you come over to here where there's a phone's input and a standard left and right, if I remember. Is that right? No, yes. Yeah, so you have a phone's output, a mono output and a return on there. So this unit, unlike a lot of the other units that I've seen recently, actually does not have a mix left and right. So effectively you're either going to take the sound out of the USB, or you're going to have the various individual instruments that this thing is generated actually up on separate channels. Very interesting design. I can't remember for the life of me whether the original did that or not. So yeah, and obviously it will present those up through USB onto the computer. On the front, it's a slightly different design to what we are used to, should I say, but you've still got the colour keys along the bottom here. And then you have, going along, you've got the, what we got, let's see, so you got bass drum, snare, low tom, mid tom, high tom, option for conga, mid conga, high conga, like that, rim shot claves, hand clap maracas, cowbell cymbal, open hat, closed hat along the top there in terms of what pattern you are selecting. These are obviously the 16 channel or 16 note quantized places on the bar. Then you've got a nice big stop and start button, stop and start, and a record button, tap to hold. Then you've got the edits mode, ways of changing the frequencies, cut off, resonance, sustain, attack, master volume obviously over there, individual levels for each one of these channels. Do you know what, actually I know I played with this in the shop, but now I've got it in my own fat little fingers. It's actually a really nice feel. In the shop it was sort of down, so it was on the top in the shop, if that makes any sense. Whereas this is actually, now I've got it out of the box and at home, I realise actually how solidly well this thing is put together. Very, very impressed with that, I have to be honest. Anyway, I'm not going to take too much of this session up by talking about this in detail, apart from the fact it has arrived. The big question is now, how does it integrate into the workflow? And that will probably be, if I'm brutally honest, something for another video, because I'm not going to do it now. What I will do is I will change the camera angle and just give you a very good look at the front of this unit, so you can actually see the front of the unit, and then we'll call it a day on this session of the rent. Also I'll plug it in so you can see it lit up. Alright, see you in a sec. A little infill. So this is the power supply for the RD-8. And apart from some very, very small type in there, that looks pretty much the same as any other power supply for any other piece of equipment you might be buying for your studio, mobile setup, etc., etc. nowadays. So how do you know that this is the power supply for the RD-8? And why would you want to know? Well, let's be very clear. Sometimes the way they wire these things is interesting. So first off, sometimes the inner side of this is positive and the outer side is negative. And on other things, the outer side is positive and the inner side is negative. So that's kind of how this thing might work. Also, the voltages. Some of these things run at 9 volts, some of these things run at 12 volts. This particular one, and I have to take my glasses off to read it, runs at 18 volts. So basically, if you're not getting 18 volts onto this thing, it's not going to work properly. If you put more than 18 volts onto this thing, you probably will cook it. And if you put less than 18 volts on this, apart from not running properly, it may actually damage some of the circuitry. So you have to make sure you have the right power supply. So when I look underneath various bits and bobs and in various cases in the studio, there's quite a few of these things sort of knocking around. And the way I tell which one is which is I have bought myself a relatively cheap dyno, right? I don't know whether these things are around the world, but in the UK, Dynamo has been a fairly standard brand for this sort of stuff for years. Little battery powered, it has batteries in it, and effectively what you do is you type into the screen there the label that you want to put onto something, and then, as if by magic, I say if by magic, da-dum, da-dum, da-dum. Let's have a look. I did print one out, but I can't find it. Best laid plans of mice and men. Okay, let's switch this on. Let's try printing a new one out. Just like that. And then it prints out a label. There you go. There's a label. And that label can then go on the side of my piece of equipment. And we do that by doing this, like so, and then basically lining that up with something on here, just like that. So now I can tell what this is for. Quick tip, moment has arrived. Let's switch it on. And there you can see, comes on at 140 BPMs. Nice big buttons. So, next time you see this, you will see a full demo of the RD-8. If you liked the content of the video you've just seen, please give it a thumbs up. It just helps the YouTube algorithm with its selection process. If you want to leave a comment, please feel free to do that as well. Down below somewhere should be the ability to do that. I do try to respond to all the comments that are raised on the channel. Sometimes it takes me a few weeks because of what I'm doing, and I'm getting more and more and more comments and questions raised on the channel, so it just takes sometimes a little bit of time to do a bit of research. If you want to be notified when I put more rants, mailbergs and videos about this sort of legacy tech and even modern tech on the channel, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell icon, and you'll be notified by YouTube when stuff happens. I try to publish at least 2 times a week, sometimes more, sometimes less. Until next time, bye bye.